Hello everyone. My name is Parth. I'm a registered migration agent at Aussizz Group. Today we are live and we are going to take your questions and we'll try to answer most of your queries. Firstly, I'll start with the recent changes. You might have already heard that the government is going to start with a new visa category called Subclass 190 visa, which is Pacific Engagement Visa. This visa is very similar to another category which was known as Pacific Australia Labour Mobility, that is PAM scheme. However, that stream is actually for low-skilled or semi-skilled workers. However, the government is coming up with a new visa called Pacific Engagement Visa, and that is actually available to people from certain countries, mainly from the Pacific countries and from Timor-Leste country. Basically, this visa will be given to people coming from, or they are citizen of these countries. Approximately 3,000 visas will be granted to these people, and this visa will give permanent residency to them. Very interesting fact is that this visa will be run under a ballot system, which is lucky draw system. So in order to apply for this visa, you'll have to first register yourself. The registration fee is $25. Once you get registered, then the government is going to conduct lucky draws. People who will be selected will be able to apply for the permanent residency. But then the main catch is only certain people holding citizenship from certain countries can only apply, mainly the Pacific countries and the Timor-Leste, as I said. The basic requirements will be very simple. The requirement of age is somewhere between 18 to 45 years of age. They are required to meet English requirement, character, health requirements as usual for most of the visas. And they are also required to have a formal job offer later. So they are required, as an applicant, they are required to have a job offer in Australia, or their partner needs a job offer in Australia. As long as you are meeting this criteria, you can apply. The process is not started yet, but then the government announced that this will be started somewhere in 2024. So anytime soon, the process will be started. So first step will be registering yourself. If you're eligible, let us know. We can help you with the process. Apart from that, government have also announced some other changes in the student visa. So it was a new genuine student requirement, which was replaced by GT criteria, genuine temporary entrant criteria, that got implemented from 23rd of March 2024. So basically, it is very similar to the GT criteria, genuine temporary entrant criteria. The main difference is that earlier, as a genuine temporary entrant, you had to prove to the government that you are coming here on a temporary for a temporary purpose, could be study, for example, for student visa, or for a visitor visa that you would like to visit the country. However, the government is now saying that you will have to qualify for a genuine student criteria, where you can still declare that you would like to later on settle in Australia permanently. And department will still consider your application if you meet other criteria and department is satisfied that you are still a genuine student. Otherwise, all of the criteria are very similar, which is proving that you have genuine intention to study, and then you have good ties back home, that you will if you decide to go back, then you have good ties back home that you will go back. So about the good ties, they will look at whether you have a good compliance, visa compliance history, your immigration history, whether you have a better economic circumstances back home, you have a family ties back home, or any other relevant factors to prove that you are a genuine student. Apart from that, the government also announced that they are going to update the English criteria for student visa applicants, and also for the temporary graduate visa TR visa or 485 subclass visa applicants. So that also got announced um, somewhere in the month of March, but then the process got implemented from 23rd of March. So as per the temporary graduate visa requirement, earlier the requirement was that the applicant is required to have at least 6 bands overall, and at least 5 bands in each of the 4 modules of IELTS academic or general test, or equivalent score in other acceptable exams, which is PT academic, TOEFL, Cambridge, or OET. However, the English requirement got increased to 6.5 bands overall, and minimum of 5.5 in each of the 4 modules. Also, one important change was that The test score was valid for 3 years earlier. However, now onwards, the English test will be valid only for 1 year of time from the date of English from the date of 485 visa application. So basically, if you would like to apply for TR visa, 485 visa on or after 23rd of March, if you're applying for it now, that means you'll have to meet the new criteria of having English test undertaken within last 1 year, and you are required to score at least 6.5 overall and minimum 5.5. Apart from that, for the student visa also, the government have made some changes in the IELTS requirement. That is, earlier the requirement was scoring at least 5.5 bands overall in English test of IELTS or equivalent in other acceptable tests. However, the English requirement got increased from 5.5 to 6 bands. Also, for students who would like to study LE course before they start their primary course, for them the requirement was earlier 4.5 bands. However, now they have increased to 0.5 more marks, which is 5 marks or 5 bands in IELTS academic. Um, However, there are no changes for people who would like to only study LE course as a course in Australia. So basically, these were the main recent updates the government have announced. On top of that, for state nomination program, which is 190 and 491 visa, as it is close to end of financial year. So it is also that most of the state governments are close to their quota allocation, and that means that their program will be closing out at any point of time soon. If we talk about Canberra, ACT, Australian Capital Territory, they were allocated 600 places under 190 category, and they have already utilized 489 seats uh, until 31st of March 2024. So from 1st of July 2023 to 31st of March 2024, they have consumed 82% of quota they have been allocated. And that's where I think there is a good possibility that they'll be conducting an invitation round soon. New South Wales state government, they were given 2,650 places, out of which they have used 1,772 places, which is approximately 67%. And that's where I am very hopeful that they'll be inviting so many more people in probably this month or in the May month. If you haven't applied to New South Wales, if you are eligible, you should strongly apply. Basically, people who are living in Australia are required to be living in New South Wales for 6 months of time in order to apply. And people who are living outside of Australia, they are eligible to apply for New South Wales state nomination. For Northern Territory, they have pretty much consumed their quota. They had 250 places allocated. They already nominated 245 people, and they still have applications with them. So I don't think they are going to, they have already closed the program officially, and they already have sufficient applications. So it will be July only that you'll have to wait for Northern Territory to reopen the program, and you may be able to apply at that time. For Queensland, they had 900 places for this year. However, they still have uh, close to 200 places remaining. So they have used 80% of the quota. 200 seats are still left, and I think they will be still inviting good number of people. I mean, they will be conducting at least 1 or 2 invitation rounds more. South Australia, they have consumed 85% of their quota, so they are left with approximately 150, 160 places. Tasmania, they have used good amount of quota. They are left with around 70, 80 places. And that's where Tasmanian state government has also advised, I think last week, that people qualifying under Gold Pass can only apply for the Matrix Canberra, I mean the Tasmanian state government state nomination. So as a registration of interest, you can only apply if you are falling under the Gold Pass category. Earlier, they were accepting applications from Orange Pass and Green Pass category as well. But now they have stated that because they have much more lesser quota available. For Victorian state government, they are left with approximately 160 places, 152 places to be precise. And that's where I think they might be conducting a small invitation round, probably in this month, April. For Western Australia, they have pretty much consumed their quota, and that's where they have already closed the program. And same way for 491, pretty much most of the states have used good amount of quota. It is Canberra, they are still left with around 180 seats. New South Wales, they are left with approximately 300 places, and they are the one having good number of places still left for 491. Northern Territory, they have some places available, but then they already have applications on their hand, so I don't think they will be inviting people. Queensland, they have somewhere around 130, 40 seats, 120 seats approximately left. South Australia has good amount of seats left, which is somewhere around 340 places, and that's where I think they will be also inviting good number of people for 491 state nomination. So most likely April and May could be a good month for people looking for state nomination from South Australia. Tasmania, they still have around 200 places left. So I think they will be also inviting good number of people for 491, and they are also promoting that people who are still looking for state nomination, their visa is expiring soon, and if they don't wanted to wait for 190, they are telling them to apply preferably for 491 so that they can get invitation before their current visa expires. So that was the quick rundown through the recent updates. We have received few questions, so we'll start from there. Firstly, I got a question from Leo. He's asking, just heard from the department regarding career visa subclass 836, asking for additional information. What are the next steps after the documents are submitted? Will it be in queue? Okay. So look, generally speaking, if you are submitting all the documentation to the government and if they are happy with all of your documentation, then again, they will put your application in the queue. If they need anything further, then they will be coming down and asking for remaining documentation. Or if they are not satisfied with your claims, then probably they may also refuse your application. So make sure that whatever documentation they have requested, you are meeting all the criteria and submitted the relevant documents to the government. Secondly, I've been asked a question by Sheikh. What are the chances for retail pharmacist with 70 points for 190 and 80 points for 491 with 0 years of experience, offshore applicant? Thank you. Actually, you haven't mentioned about which state you are targeting, but I think you have good chances for whichever state you are applying for state nomination, because in your occupation, few number of applications are lodged, and that's where most of the state governments are considerate when inviting pharmacists. Few of the state governments, they've already closed their program. Apart from that, you can apply to any of the state government as such. Make sure you submit different application to the different state governments, because some state governments have a rule that if you have applied to multiple state, then they may not select you if they have if you have mentioned multiple states in that EUI itself. So make sure that you have submitted different application to different state governments, so you have chances for multiple states. Anna is asking, I am willing to opt for Australia for my bachelor's degree, so which course will be best suited for commerce background? Okay. And it really depends on what you would like to study in Australia and what your interest is about. If you are looking at studying something relevant to commerce, most likely people look at doing a master's of commerce degree or master's of professional accounting, or probably masters of finance, banking, something like this. If you'd like to change your career a bit, you may look at professional computing degrees. For an example, masters of business specialized in information systems, or masters of information systems, which is bit IT, and it also have some business part of the subjects. Apart from that, um, if you'd like to study proper IT courses, you may still go for some of the colleges, some of the universities, they still offer IT courses. IT courses, I'm telling because I have seen that a lot of commerce students, they decide to study IT in Australia, and based on that, I'm telling you. However, it all depends on your interest. If you have a particular interest, we can advise you accordingly that where you can get admission, what are the requirements and things like that. But basically, accounting profession you can look for, management profession you may look for, or information systems, business information systems, enterprise resource planning, things like that you may look at, which is part of IT. Good number of people nowadays, they're also looking at data science roles because there are much more better opportunities for career and also for permanent residency for data scientist or data analyst role, which is also a bit relevant to management and IT, a mixture, plus also programming a part of it. So probably research bit more about what you would like to do, and accordingly, then we can advise you which one probably you should choose based on your interest. Viranga is asking, I'm working as a head chef with 70 points and have more than 2 years of experience. Still no reply for 190 ROI through graduate stream. What can I expect this financial year or next financial year? Visa expiring in December 2024. Okay. So I think you are asking about Western Australia because you are mentioning about graduate stream and Western Australia have the graduate stream. However, you also mentioned about ROI and ROI is not applicable in Western Australia. So it's not very clear about which state you are asking, but basically, if you are looking at Western Australia state sponsorship, then their program is already closed. So you'll have to wait for new financial year, which is July. You'll have to wait for and see what are their criteria. See if you are qualified, you can apply accordingly. If you're asking about Victorian state government, they are saying we are not sponsoring chefs for 190 visa, so you should better target 491. They might still conduct one more invitation round, so better to change your application to 491. But for that, you also have to prove that you are living and working in regional Victoria. So see if you can qualify quickly. For Western Australia, you'll have to wait for July only. If it is any other state, then you may contact us and we can advise you accordingly. Hasib is asking why TR extension is taking so long. Um, Look, basically, there are so many people who have applied for TR extension recently because the government is planning to make some changes from 1st of July that people will not like most of the people, it's not most of the people, except all of the applicants who are qualifying under the current arrangement will not qualify to apply for TR extension for 2 more years if they have studied a specific course from 1st of July. And that's where so many people have recently started applying for TR, also knowing that government was changing the English requirement. That's where a lot of people have applied for TR visa, and that could be one of the reason that it is taking so long. Jigar is asking future of welders, Victoria point 70. What about 189 as well? So look, basically for welders, very few number of applicants study such courses, and that's where much more lesser number of people are applying for permanent residency under this occupation. That's why you have a good possibility of getting an invite for 189 as well and for 190 as well. For 190 this year, we haven't seen Victorian state government inviting trade people. If it is Victoria you're looking at, if it is any other state, then it depends on the state where you are living. Different state have a different criteria. So based on where you are living, we can advise you better. If you are talking about 189 visa, since last 1 year, government have not invited trade people under 189 category, but we are hopeful that from this year, July onwards, the government will be running good invitation program for 189 visa. And that's where I think I'm very hopeful that you should be able to get an invite. But unless they don't, if in case they don't invite trade people again from July onwards, then you will have to target particular states which are still sponsoring trade people, or you could probably target 491 state sponsorship. Maharshi is asking, I have received document request section 56 for PCC on this date and submitted it on 12th of March. My lodgement date is 21st of February. Occupation is pharmacy technician, 190 offshore. When can I expect grant based on your experience? Okay. So Maharshi, what happens is every year the government have a quota to grant a specific number of visas. As of now, it is end of the financial year, and that's where they are close to finish with their quota. If they are finishing their quota soon, then in that case, they process applications based on the time of lodgement. So your application is lodged recently. However, one more thing is that they are giving priority to certain occupations. If your occupation is falling under that priority occupation list, then they may still grant you visas on a priority. Just let me quickly check whether your occupation is falling under that priority list or not. But basically, otherwise, if it is not falling under that thing, then it is processed based on the visa lodgement dates. But if they still have a good amount of quota left, then they don't go by the date of application, but generally they start processing the applications. So pharmacy technicians is falling under the primary priority occupation list, and that's where good possibility that you uh, may be able to get the visa grant before end of this financial year, which is before June, that you might be able to get the visa, considering you have submitted all the required documentation. But if they are done with their quota, then you'll have to wait for the July only. How you will know whether the quota is done or not? Pretty much they don't announce it anywhere. It's just that we get to know that they are not processing any applications. That means the quota is done. Otherwise, but for now, they are still processing the visas. That means they still have the quota. You should better email them saying my occupation is priority if you can finalize the application if it is taking longer. You have submitted your last document on 12th of March, so it's not even a month of time. So I would recommend wait for this month. This month means 28 days of time since the submission of your documents, and then you may try contacting them. Suresh is asking, I have 90 points with ICT security specialist occupation. What are the chances for 190 this financial year and next financial year? Can you please tell me? Look, this financial year is pretty much done. And most of the states, as we were announcing, as we were mentioning the details about how many seats are already gone. Looking at that, it seems that chances for an invite is much lesser unless you are living in a state where they still have a good amount of quota left. Also, it is not just about the points, it depends on which state you are applying for a state nomination. Some state governments like Victoria, they are not asking about how many points you have done. They are prioritizing applications based on certain factors, such as how much you are earning, whether you have a skilled partner, whether you have superior English or proficient English, whether you have relevant work experience. If you have relevant work experience, how many years of experience you have, what kind of qualification you have, things like that. So that is just for Victoria. But different state have a different program, and that's where without knowing which state you are asking about, I cannot comment much on that. For 189 visa, as I mentioned, since last 1 year, the government have not invited any IT professionals, but we are hopeful that from July, that is next financial year, the government will be hopefully conducting good number of invitations for 189 visa. So you can just wait and see how it goes. Bilal is asking, I am CA qualified looking for a MBA online and on a student dependent visa after MBA from Perth. Am I eligible to apply for World 5 ECS? If yes, how long will it be the duration? What will be my student visa chances onshore? Your question is not very clear to me, but then if I'm understanding it correctly, if you're saying that I would like to study MBA from Perth, for an example, and if it is 2 years course, you are eligible for 2 years of TR 485 visa. But if you have stayed in Perth even during your 485 visa and you have worked in Western Australia, even Perth, for an example, you are eligible for 1 more year of TR extension at the end of your current TR. So, for example, if you study 2 years master's degree business administration in Perth, then if you are applying for 485 TR visa, you will be granted with 2 years of visa. During those 2 years also, if you stay in Perth, you work in Perth. After 2 years before your visa expiry, you can apply for TR extension for 1 more year. So basically, you can get 2 years of student visa, 2 years of initial TR, and then 1 more year of TR. So altogether, somewhere around 5 years or more because you will be having bridging visa in between. So probably somewhere around 5 year, 5.5 year of time. About your chances of getting a student visa, I cannot tell you until I look at your documents. If you can prove that you are a genuine student, you have a good career plus academic background, then you could possibly have a good possibility. Meet is asking, I am in South Australia, cleared CAPS exam, profession is pharmacist. What are the peer pathways for me currently doing my master degree in health service management? Okay. So basically, if you're in South Australia, they are saying that as long as you have worked for 6 months in the relevant field and you are living there for 1 year of time, you can apply for a state sponsorship. The problem is they are saying that your work must be for at least 30 hours per week. That means you cannot qualify until you finish your course because you'll have to finish your course and then you have to work for 30, 40 hours. For an example, minimum requirement is 30 hours, but if you're working full time, so then technically you can qualify. So basically, you'll have to wait for your course completion, then you can apply, or you move to some other state which does not ask you to work full time if you are not working even, or if you're working for even 20 hours, 24 hours, and if they are accepting it, then you may target those kind of states such as Victoria. They don't say that you have to be working in Victoria for full time or part time or things like that in order to apply for 190 state sponsorship. So you may apply for it that way, or you may wait for July and see what South Australia is asking in the next financial year. If they have a comparatively lesser requirement and if you are qualified that way, then you can apply to them. But for now, you cannot qualify. If you'd like to move down to some other states like Victoria, as I said, then they may be able to sponsor you. They don't ask you to be working there in the same field even. Parth Chaudhary is asking, can you please tell me about 65 points in Chef 491? Look, you haven't mentioned about which state. If it is Victoria, for an example, we have seen people with even 65 points getting an invite. But as I said, they don't look at your points. They look at some particular factors such as your salary, whether you have a skilled partner, whether you have proficient English, that is 7 bands in all, or if you have at least 1 year of experience. Look, pretty much 1 year experience every chef will have, because without that you can't get a skill assessment. So experience, if it is more years of experience, then only it will give you priority. But otherwise, if you have 7 bands in all, then good possibility that they will be able to invite you. But based on what you're saying, 65 points, I think you don't have seven each. So I recommend you better try for seven each, or if you have good years of experience, good salary, then you may be invited. Or if you have a partner, try to get skills assessment or at least six each from your partner so that they give you priority. That is for Victoria. Again, it depends on the state. If you are targeting some other state and if you are meeting the requirements for that state, then your possibility could be a bit different. Deepak is asking, what are the chances for a facility managers with 90 points, New South Wales, working in same occupation, 1 year experience? Look, New South Wales state government, they give priority based on certain factors such as your points. Firstly, they look at your points. Your points are good. Secondly, they look at how much you have scored in English. I think because you have 90 points, you should have scored superior English. So that should also be fine. And lastly, they two more things. They look at how many years of experience you have. Most likely you will have 1 year, because without that you can't get a skill assessment. And they look at when have you applied for your EOI. As we were discussing earlier, New South will still have good amount of quota left for 190, so you should be more hopeful of getting an invite. I can comment because I, as of now, don't remember that how many people are waiting in your occupation with more points than you, but I doubt that hardly there will be people waiting in this occupation with more points than you. That means you have a good possibility. But if they are not inviting facilities manager in the remaining 1 or 2 rounds, then we don't have a scope. But that thing probably I will not be able to tell you. However, as I said, in your occupation, if they are inviting you, if they are inviting people, then you have a good possibility. Yesha is asking, what are the chances of enrolled nurses in South Australia for 190? I am going to complete 6 months experience as an EN next month. Look, once you complete 6 months of experience, then you are eligible to apply, considering you have stayed for 1 year in South Australia. The problem is by that time the program may close. So you'll have to wait for July. And then if the program is still open, you can apply to them. And then there are good chances that you will be invited even to apply for the state nomination. One more thing is that South Australian state government also prioritize applications based on certain factors. For an example, if someone's visa is expiring soon, they give them priority. If someone's age, they are turning probably 33 losing points, or they are turning 45 soon and they will not meet the criteria for PR, things like that, they give them priority. So there will be few applications like that, and that's why they might be inviting them. And because we are talking about next month that you will qualify, maybe it might be like the program might get closed at that time. Sanjay is asking, can we get a student visa even if you have completed your 485 visa? Yes, it has nothing to do with your 485 visa. You can apply and you can still get the student visa granted. However, student visa chances depends on what you have done in past, whether this course is relevant, why you have decided to study this course, how that is going to help you in career. All those things you have to explain, which is like all this GTE, or now that has been changed to genuine student criteria. So you have to prove that you are a genuine student and why you are doing that course. If they are happy with that, they can still grant it. So nothing like you cannot apply for a student visa from 485 visa. For now, the government is saying that they may make it something, they may restrict people applying from student visas while they are holding specific visas, which could be a 485 visa. But as of now, there is no news as such. But in future, the government may make something like this. But it is very bit, I mean, you can say it's very tricky, bit difficult to manage that program that way, that how or what kind of people we will restrict. But then government will come up with some policies that in certain situations you will not be able to extend your visa while you're in Australia. In certain situations only you will be able to apply for a student visa in Australia. That's what the government is saying. Let's see how they are going to frame the requirements. Dulanga is asking, any clue about 189 invitation round? Victoria 190 is not considering RNs, isn't it? We have got invites for RNs, I think in the last round, that was in March. So they are inviting registered nurses, and I think they still have few places left. So they might run a small round, and I think they might be inviting particularly occupations which they have, in which they have a higher priority, higher demand. RN could be one of this occupation, and that's where I can hope for an invite for 190 visa. For 189 invitation round, people are talking about that there is a possibility that immigration may invite people in May. I don't know, but I think the chances are comparatively lesser because of mainly two things. Firstly, the government is planning to make some changes in these points tested visas from July, and that's where I think they may not conduct round considering that thing. Secondly, the quota they have for this financial year for 189 visa, I think it should be near to full, and that's where the possibility of conducting an invitation round is a bit lesser. It's not like it's not possible. They may still invite people because technically they don't have to grant their visas in this year. So even if current year's quota is lesser, they can still invite people. So, but then there is no indication as such, so I can't commit or I can't tell you anything about it much. Meet is asking what about chemist 65 points for 189? How much points needed for 189 without a job? Chemist living in Queensland, graduated in Queensland. What about the chemist 65 points for 189? How much points needed for 189? Okay. Look, for 189 visa, as I was saying, since last 1 year, the government have not invited chemists. We don't know when the next round is going to happen. If next round is going to happen, we'll have to see whether they are even inviting chemists, because in some rounds they give priority to only certain occupations. So if they are not giving priority to chemists, for example, in the next round, then you will not be invited. But if they are inviting chemists, then even with 65 points, you should be able to get an invite because there are not much applicants waiting in the pipeline with this occupation. But I strongly recommend you should also target Queensland state nomination. I probably doubt that you have a job, and that's why you only mention about 189. So if you don't have a job in the same field, then you cannot qualify for 190. So your only hope is 189. If you think you are not getting a job there, then it's better that you move to some other state in which they are still sponsoring chemists without a relevant job, such as Victoria or Western Australia, or even New South Wales. But New South Wales, they target much more higher points. Victoria, they target points. Even Western Australia, Victoria, they don't target points, but ultimately they target English and years of experience and things like that. So you might be still missing out on the points. And Western Australia, they again target the points. So basically, you either target 189, in which also the points matters, but not many people qualify in such occupation. That's why your competition is less. That way 190 could also be a possibility, but if you think that is a bit tricky, better to target 491. So you may try for 189, wait for 190 for some time if you still have a longer visa. Otherwise, you may target 491. Then I have a question from the, will education and health still be a priority sector for next financial year? We don't know, to be honest. But then the way it is going, I think so. It is a possibility that the government may still consider that as a priority, because it is both that the state governments and federal government, they are giving priority to education and health occupations. They are finalizing, they are prioritizing their applications first. They are granting them visas first, things like that. And I don't think in this short period of time they are going to change that. So very hopeful that they will be still giving priority to education and health occupations. Viranga is asking regarding South Australia working as a head chef, seen with 70 points and have more than 2 years experience. Still no reply for 190 ROI through graduate stream. What can I expect this financial year or next financial year? Visa expiring in December. Okay. Look, your visa is expiring in December, and that's where there is a good possibility that they may invite you for 190. They, I think, still have good amount of quota left, as we were discussing. For 190, they still have around 200, 170 places, which is still good amount of places. And for 491, they have pretty much close to 350 places. That means there is a good possibility for 491. But if you are saying that you would like to wait for 190, then probably you might have to wait for even new financial year, you can, we have also seen that sometimes they have actually told people, given the option that 190 is not possible in your case, if you are happy to take 491, take it, something like this. So that might also happen. But I would recommend better wait for 190 for now. And if you're not invited, probably see the requirement for a new financial year in July. And accordingly, if you think 190 is still looking difficult, then you target 491. But for now, you still have good possibility for South Australia. Chitra is asking, my apologies for the long query. My student visa is will be expired in September 2026. Initially granted for my PhD. I'm doing master's degree and course will be completed in December 2024. I'll be applying for 45 right after completion of this course. My question is, can I work full time after this course completion? Do I need to hold another COE to maintain student visa condition if my bridging visa A will not be in effect until September 2026 or 45 grant? Please provide suggestion. Okay. So look, technically, when you apply for a new visa, such as in your case, it is 485 visa, you will be granted with a bridging visa A, but that does not come in effect, as you know. Now, because that visa is not in effect, your student visa will be in effect. And as per the student visa, you are required to have a COE. Generally speaking, the government says that if you have more than 2 months of gap in between two courses, if you aren't holding a COE for 2 months of time, there is a possibility that government may send you a notice saying we would like to cancel your visa. So that is a possibility. If you'd like to avoid that, it is better to have another COE. Because you have finished your course, government give bit relaxation, but then the course you have finished, that is not the actual course you came here for, and that's why there is still a possibility that they may cancel your visa. But before canceling the visa, they will generally come down to you saying that you have breached your visa condition. Please elaborate to us, explain to us why we should not cancel your visa. And you can try explaining them that this is the story. I have finished my master's and I have already applied for my temporary visa and things like that. If they still decide to cancel the visa, then you will not have work rights until your 485 is granted. So that could be a risk, and that's why it is recommended that you hold another COE so you don't breach your visa conditions. Chamat is asking, what are the requirements for employers need to sponsor for 486 visa? Also, how long need to wait for grant of the visa? Look, for 186 visa, employer has to prove that they are running a business, their business is financially viable. Viable means they have a good financial capacity, they are running in a profit. If they are running in loss, explaining why they are running in loss, since when they are running in losses, when they are expecting that they will be having a profit and things like that. Also, the most important thing is that they have to prove that they have a genuine need of your skills in that business. So, for example, if you are a chef, for an example, you haven't mentioned, but if you, for example, a chef, your business has to prove that they still need one more chef in their business. If they're already having one or two chefs, why they need another chef? So if you are able to prove that yes, there is a genuine need in the business, technically, look, if you're already working in the restaurant, if you are a chef, for an example, so then it is easier to get the 186 visa because you're already fully fulfilling that position. But the business has to prove that they are running financially stable. As long as they prove that, and as long as they prove that there is a full-time need of your position in the business and you're meeting criteria from your side, then it is fine. About the visa processing time, as of now, it is taking somewhere around 8 months to 10 months of time for most of the applications. For certain occupations, the government is giving priority, and for those people, they are getting outcome soon. But for other people, it is taking somewhere around 8 to 10 months of time. Manoj is asking, hi sir, suppose a person got 4-9 visa from Victoria, but can he or she work from outside of Victoria, example, Adelaide or Perth, depending on opportunity available, except Melbourne's investment. Look, as per your visa conditions, you are free to work, stay, or study anywhere in regional Australia. That means if you'd like to move down to any other state, like Perth, Adelaide, whatever cities you have mentioned, it is fine as long as it is outside of metropolitan area, which is Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. The state which has sponsored you, they expect that you live in their state, work in their state, things like that, because they are sponsoring you, they are expecting that you work there because they have a shortage in their state. So if you don't actually work there, technically you are not breaching your visa condition. So if you'd like to move down to other state, you can. It is the moral obligation, in a way you can say, that state is expecting a favor from you, in a way that they are giving you a favor, in a way that they are sponsoring you visa, in a way they are expecting a favor from you that you stay there so that their skill shortage requirements are met. So you decide accordingly. But as I said, visa, there is no visa condition as such, and that's why you can move to any regional area. It will not create a problem when you are applying for PR or when you are applying for citizenship, because so many people ask us this question, but technically there is no criteria as such. Dhaval is asking, what are the chances in Western Australia for civil engineering at 75 points? Look, basically the program is closed. We'll have to wait for July and see how many people, how much quota they have received. First of all, if they received good amount of quota, then good possibility. Secondly, we still have to see whether they are keeping civil engineering occupation under the priority sector in the next financial year as well. Because if they don't keep it in priority, then the points cutoff will be a bit higher. But if they are keeping this occupation to priority sector, the cutoff will be lesser. So even with 75 points, you should be able to get an invite. So mainly it depends on two things. Firstly, how much quota they are going to get from the immigration government in the next financial year, and secondly, whether they are going to keep this occupation into priority list as well. Prink is asking what are the chances in South Australia for professional civil engineer at 65 points for 190 and 75 points for 491. Look, as of now, there are people having more skills than you, more points than you, to be honest. And that's where the chances are a bit lesser for 190. 491, they still have good amount of seats left. So that's where I think they might advise you to take 491. Probably the program will close somewhere around end of May or probably mid of June for South Australia because they still have good amount of places left. But you should apply for both 190, 491. You must select both of them to see which one they are inviting you for. But for now, we got people having more points than you and they are still waiting for an invite. So that's why 491, that is an option you are probably targeting for now. Kiran is asking how much points required for New South Wales 189 and 190 for civil engineer and construction project manager. Look, basically, if you are looking at 189, then it has nothing to do with your state government. 189 is independent visa. If you're living in New South Wales, Victoria, or overseas, it doesn't matter. The government, they only look at your points and your date of application. The person who have higher points, they will be selecting them first. If two person have the same points and if they need only one person, then they will select person based on the date of application, based on date of effect, what is shown in the EUI application. So basically 189, how much points required? Okay. So for 189, last time government have invited people in December 2022. So civil engineers were invited in December 2022. Since then, there were two invitation rounds. First one was in May 2023. Second one was in December 2023, but they did not invite any engineers. But when they invited engineers in December 2022, they invited people with 85 points. So if you have 85 or higher, then you are expecting for now. If you are looking at 190 civil engineer, the points cutoff will be still higher, but construction project manager, not many people qualify. So if you have a skill assessment under construction project manager, or if you're applying to do so, I strongly recommend that in that occupation, people with lesser points should be able to get an invite. So lesser points means how much? So somewhere around 65, 70 points also, if you have, they may still be able to invite you under construction project manager category. That is what uh, I will recommend you to apply under. Maharshis asked a question that should I mail them at the end of April 2024, considering 50% of time for processing is 67 days and today I am at 46th day. Original question was that I have a received. Okay. So basically you can email them, as I said. It's not about 50% time, but because your occupation is under priority, and that's where there is a possibility, good possibility that they may be able to still give you priority and they may finalize your application. So email them saying that this is my priority occupation. If you are working in regional area, you should also mention that I'm working in regional area because they give priority to people working in regional. So mention these two priority attributes, and based on that, I think they should be able to finalize your application if all the other things are already submitted. I have one more question from Shivam Man. What are the chances for painting trades worker with $75,000 salary, living in Melbourne, 75 points for 190 and for 85 points for 400? I got visa until December. Look, as of now, painters, they are not invited by Victoria under 190 category. So your target should be 491. Your salary is good. It's just that you'll have to move your job and your stay. You'll have to move yourself in regional area, then only you are eligible for 491. If you're already living, working in regional area, you should change your application from 190 to 491 category, because they are saying that they are not inviting trade people under 190 category. Or you may wait for July and see how they are inviting people, what are their criteria and things like that. if they are giving priority to trade people as well for 190, you may wait and see. But then we don't know for now. So for now, if you can qualify for 491, better to move your application from 190 to 491. Amita is asking, what are the chances in Western Australia for IT business analyst and IT project manager for 70 points for 189, 85 points in 491, and 75 points on 190? Okay. So 189 business analyst, project manager, 70 points, it is not going to work. Project manager, I think it's not even on high demand occupation list, so you cannot apply for 189. But anyway, 70 points are not sufficient to apply for, to get an invite for business analyst occupation. If we are looking at project manager, sorry, if we are looking at 190 state sponsorship, then also Western Australia, they have selected people with minimum of 95 points to what I remember. So last round Western Australia have conducted in November 2023. Since then, they are saying that we are closed for this year. So hopefully there are people with 95 points who are already invited. There were still people with 95 points who did not get invited in November month. So there are people with 95 points already there. Plus, after November, if people applied with even 100 points, they are still waiting there because they are not getting an invite for 189 or not even for Western Australia. So technically, um, if the program even opens in July, I think there will be tough competition. There will be few good amount of people having probably 90, 95, 100 points. And that's where I think your chances are much more lesser even for 190. If you're targeting 491, your points are 75. That's where probably you might have some scope. But even in that case, as I said, they were inviting people with 95 points. So that is a bit tricky. Unless in July, Western Australian state government, if they get a higher amount of quota, then there is a possibility that they might invite people with even lesser points. But that we can only hope for now, you know. Last question we are going to take, that is from Shirish Pandey. I am action auditor, 85 points for 189. What are the chances with no experience offshore? Action auditor, 85 points. The thing is, the government is not conducting invitation round for auditors. And that's where, as of now, we can't say much. Since last 1 year, they have not invited any auditors. From July, I am hopeful that they will be inviting applicants under all the occupations. So then we can probably have a better idea. However, we still don't know how many people they will be inviting. Also, whether they are going to give priority to offshore applicants, because when they were inviting people in 2022, at that time they were giving priority to offshore applicants. So people with lesser skills also got an invite. So that way, if they are inviting people, then you have a good scope. But if they are inviting people and not giving priority to offshore people, then it is pretty much you have to compete with people who are in Australia and they have good amount of points. Most of the people in auditing category will have, I think, 85 points or more. And that's where it will be very tricky. I think you should better target state-sponsored visa because you are offshore. So I think you must have good amount of experience in the same field. And not many people who are in Australia have same field experience. And that's where state governments will highly regard your profile. So if you have experience, good English score, you should better target the state-sponsored visa than 189. I mean, 189, you will still apply, but then keep higher hope on state-sponsored visa, which is 190. You may also apply at the same time for 491. If you don't get anything, at least 491, you'll have a good possibility. That's it for the questions. If you have still questions, you can keep posting it there and we will be responding your queries there itself. Thank you for your time and thank you for joining the session as well. We'll be here again next week. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you.